She walked home after a night out, just 3 blocks from safety. But someone was already inside her locked apartment, waiting. What happened next shocked an entire city and exposed a predator hiding in plain sight. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Noir Crime 88, share it, and comment which country you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more true crime stories to life. It was just past 1:30 a.m. in downtown Orlando. The streets were quiet, lit by the orange glow of street lamps and the distant hum of late-night traffic. 27-year-old Sasha Samsudean, known to her friends as bright, warm, and endlessly kind, was heading home after a night out with co-workers. She wasn't intoxicated, wasn't careless, just tired and ready to end the night. Sasha lived in a secure apartment building on East Livingston Street. It required a key fob to enter, and inside, additional locked doors made it feel safe, exactly the kind of place a young professional would choose. But safety is sometimes only an illusion. As Sasha approached the building's entrance, surveillance footage showed her walking normally, not hurried, not afraid. What she didn't realize was that a man nearby had been watching her closely. A stranger. A shadow. This man would later be identified as Stephen Duxbury, a 33-year-old security guard employed in the area. He wasn't on duty that night, but he knew the building, and he knew how to bypass its safety. Sasha tapped her fob, stepped through the entrance, and the heavy door closed behind her. She believed she was alone. But Duxbury slipped in right after her tailgating, a technique he likely used many times before. No one noticed, no alarm sounded. Just another night, another small moment of trust that would be shattered forever. Upstairs, Sasha realized something felt wrong. There were noises, shifts in the air, subtle hints she wasn't alone. She texted a co-worker, "I think someone is in my apartment." Minutes later, she typed again, "I'm scared." Her friend immediately tried to call her, but the line never connected. Downstairs, neighbors would later report hearing muffled sounds, struggling, maybe a scream, maybe furniture scraping, but none of it seemed alarming enough to call for help. After all, apartment noises are easy to misinterpret. Inside her bedroom, Sasha desperately tried to lock the door. The lock jammed, and in that terrifying moment, she sent one last message. "He's outside my door." And then, silence. Investigators would later piece together what happened inside that apartment: a struggle, signs of forced entry into the bedroom, and a horror no one should ever experience. But at this moment in the story, no one knew Sasha was fighting for her life. No one knew a predator had followed her home. No one knew the nightmare unfolding behind a locked door in a building that promised safety. Outside, the night went on as usual. Cars passed, people slept, and Sasha's phone, lying on her bedroom floor, stopped lighting up. Morning sunlight crept through the blinds of Sasha's apartment, but it touched a scene no one was there to witness. Her phone lay silent. Her bed sheets were torn and tangled. Her front door showed faint scratches, marks left by hands trying desperately to hold it shut. At 11 a.m., Sasha's co-workers began to worry. She was never late, never unreachable. Texts went unread, calls rang out. By noon, concern turned into dread. Her friend, the one who'd received the frantic messages just hours before, couldn't wait any longer. She drove straight to Sasha's building, heart pounding with every step toward the entrance. The lobby felt too quiet. The elevator ride felt endless. And when she reached the 3rd floor, she knew something was horribly wrong, because Sasha always locked her door, yet this time it was slightly ajar. She whispered her name. No answer. She pushed the door gently. Still silence. Inside, the apartment was in disarray. A living room rug was bunched as if someone had slipped or fallen. A lamp lay sideways. The bedroom door was damaged, wood chipped at the latch. The air felt cold, too cold. And then she saw her. Sasha was lying on the floor of her bedroom, motionless. Her friend froze, breath caught in her chest. The shock was overwhelming, a moment her mind struggled to process. She backed out of the room and ran into the hallway, dialing 911 with trembling hands. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the street below. Police rushed up the stairs. Paramedics followed behind. But for Sasha, it was already too late. Detectives quickly realized this was no typical break-in. The apartment's electronic access system showed Sasha had entered at 1:46 a.m. But less than a minute later, another unknown key fob access was logged. Building staff told investigators. No one else should have been able to enter at that time. A key fob that wasn't assigned to Sasha, but to someone familiar with the building's systems. Security footage was pulled immediately. And there he was. A man entering behind Sasha, maintaining distance, almost blending into the background. His movements were deliberate, head down, keeping to shadows, following her from the lobby to the elevator. Detectives zoomed in. Enhanced frames. And soon, the face became unmistakable. Stephen Duxbury. He wasn't just anyone. He was a security guard who worked for the very company responsible for protecting residents like Sasha. When officers located him later that afternoon, Duxbury acted calm. Too calm. He claimed he barely knew Sasha. He claimed he had never followed her inside. He even offered to answer questions without a lawyer. But investigators noticed something unsettling. Scratches on his arms, small cuts on his hands, and a key fob in his possession that, according to the system logs, had been used minutes after Sasha walked in. A fob that could unlock her building. A fob he should not have had. Detectives pressed him harder, and his story changed. Then changed again. Eventually, he claimed he followed her inside because she looked like she needed help. But the footage showed no such thing. Sasha appeared fine, unaware of the man stalking her from behind. When asked why he entered the building right after her, his face tightened. He hesitated. And for investigators, that hesitation said everything. They knew they had their suspect, but they still didn't know the full story. Not yet. Back at the crime lab, forensic teams worked through Sasha's apartment with methodical precision. Every corner was photographed, every surface swabbed, every piece of evidence collected with the hope that the truth would eventually speak for itself. And it did. On Sasha's bedroom doorframe, technicians found skin cells freshly scraped during a struggle. On the inside of the door, near the latch, they found fibers and a partial fingerprint that didn't belong to Sasha or anyone who lived in the building. Under her nails, they found DNA. It all pointed in one direction: Stephen Duxbury. The more detectives examined the apartment, the clearer the picture became. Sasha had tried to shut her bedroom door to protect herself. She fought back fiercely. And that resistance left physical marks that tied Duxbury to the scene with undeniable clarity. But there was more. Data from her phone showed messages being typed and erased, likely during moments of panic. At 1:58 a.m., everything stopped. There were no outgoing calls, no attempts to reach 911. Investigators believed that Duxbury had her phone in his possession or had disabled her ability to call for help almost immediately after breaking into her room. When detectives confronted Duxbury with the evidence, his confidence started to crack. He insisted that he only followed her because she seemed drunk, and he wanted to make sure she got home safe. But his story didn't hold. It contradicted the footage, contradicted the timeline, contradicted the physical evidence. Then came the biggest breakthrough. The access logs from the apartment building showed that after Sasha entered, someone else had attempted to use a master key fob to open her front door multiple times. Each failed attempt was logged. Each one happened at the same moment Duxbury appeared on camera near her unit. He wasn't helping her. He was trying to get inside. Hours later, when police searched his apartment, they found clothing that matched the man seen on surveillance footage that night. Fibers from Sasha's carpet were on his shoes. Mixed DNA from both of them was found on his shirt. The case was no longer a mystery. It was a timeline of deliberate choices. When the trial began, Orlando filled with tension. Sasha's case had made headlines across the country because it struck at the heart of a universal fear, thinking you're safe, even when danger is already inside. Prosecutors described their case with chilling clarity. They laid out the timeline minute by minute. They showed the surveillance footage. They presented the forensic evidence. They displayed the photos from Sasha's apartment, heartbreaking reminders of her final moments. The jury watched Duxbury closely. He showed little emotion, no remorse, no visible reaction to the overwhelming evidence. When Sasha's parents took the stand, the courtroom fell silent. They described her as a light in their lives, someone who never hurt anyone, someone who trusted the world just enough to believe in good people. Their voices cracked. Jurors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then came the defense. Duxbury's attorney argued he had no intention of harming Sasha, that he followed her because he believed she was intoxicated, and that the encounter inside her apartment was consensual. But the evidence dismantled that claim instantly. There were signs of forced entry, signs of struggle, bruising consistent with restraint, DNA consistent with an attack. The jury deliberated for only a few hours. When they returned, the verdict echoed through the courtroom like a final piece of justice falling into place. Guilty on all counts. Sasha's family held one another tightly as the judge prepared to deliver the sentence. And Duxbury sat motionless, staring straight ahead. For Sasha's parents, it was a moment filled with conflicting emotions. Justice had been served, yes, but justice could never return their daughter. What they wanted most was the one thing the world could never give back. Still, they stood strong, honoring her memory the way she lived her life, with grace, with warmth, and with unwavering courage. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, microphones clustered, cameras rolling. Sasha's mother stepped forward. Her voice was soft, but every word carried weight. "She fought," she said. "She tried so hard to come home, and now it's our turn to fight for her." In the months that followed, that fight continued. The case sparked a broader conversation about apartment safety, security system oversight, and the responsibilities of private security companies. If a person hired to protect residents could instead exploit that access, then something needed to change. And families across the state demanded exactly that. Her story became a reminder that danger isn't always distant, hidden in shadows. Sometimes it stands just out of frame, waiting for a moment of vulnerability. And yet, Sasha's legacy was not one of fear. It was one of resilience, of community coming together, of people refusing to let her story fade into silence. Today, her name continues to echo far beyond Orlando told, not just as a tragedy, but as a plea for vigilance and as a tribute to a young woman whose life meant so much to so many. When people speak of her, they don't speak of the night she was taken. They speak of her laughter, her kindness, the way she lit up every room she walked into. And in that way, she lives on. If Sasha's story moved you, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to Noir Crime 88 for more real true crime documentaries. And before you go, comment below and tell us which country you're watching from. Your support helps keep these stories alive, and helps honor the victims who can no longer speak for themselves.